The following is a summary of the Sicha of Shabbos Parshas Ki Sissa, Tofshin Nun Beis. In Parshas Ki Sissa, there's a chiddush, there's something novel, because the content of the Sedra is min hakotze el hakotze, from one extreme, literally, to the other. You've got in this week's Sedra the story of the first set of luchos, tablets, then the sin of the golden calf, the Chet HaEgel, the smashing of the tablets, and then the correction and the prayer of Moshe to repair the damage. Then you have Moshe seeing the glory of Hashem, the Yud Gimel Midas Harachmin, the 13 attributes of mercy, and then the delivery of the second set of tablets and the shining of the rays of glory on Moshe's face. Now, although all those come in one continuum, however, in addition to the fact that why does the Torah tell us at length about things which are really not good in terms of the egel? After all, the Torah doesn't even speak of a non-kosher animal in a derogatory way. In addition to that, the fact is that the Sedra is full, literally, of things which are from one extreme to the other. So you've got the first set of tablets, they were given from above, they were made by Hashem. The breaking of the tablets, this was a descent, which you can't have a greater descent than that. Then you've got the 13 attributes of mercy and the seeing Moshe seeing the glory of Hashem. That's a tremendously amazing thing. Then you've got the second set of tablets, which was a different type of tablets. It was made by Moshe. And all of this comes in one continuum. Now, in addition to that, you also have in this week's parasha talks about the advantage of the first set of tablets. And even when describing the second set, it says ko rishonim, like the first set, which brings out the advantage of the first set. Now, surely the advantage of the first set of tablets should be spoken about in Parsha of Mishpatim, and here only hinted to. Why is the advantage of the first set of tablets brought out here, where you have the breakage of them and the giving of the second set? That's surely, so to speak, making fun, if you want, of the first set of tablets, pointing out how great they were, and then telling us that they were smashed. So, from the fact that all of this is in one continuum, we can understand that there's actually a golden thread in the line. And even according to Rashi, who says there is no chronological order in the Torah, and the sin of the golden calf came before the instruction to build the Mishkan, L'cha'ira, seemingly here, there isn't any reason why we should speak about the first set of tablets, and principally, even though you're right, there is no chronological order, why here are they spoken about in one continuum? And finally, the question is, at the end of the Sedra, we also have a discussion about the three festivals of Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. What have they got to do with the content of the rest of the parasha? Of course, all of this is highlighted when we think about the name of the parasha, Ki Sissa. I mean, the beginning of the parasha is talking about the machzis hashekel, the half of the shekel. What's that got to do with the rest of the parasha? And furthermore, the sin of the golden calf was, as previously mentioned, a tremendous descent. It was the root of all further sin. It's the complete opposite of Nesias Rosh, of lifting up the head of the Bnei Yisrael. And also at the end of the parasha, where you have the rays of glory on the face of Moshe, why did that come to Moshe specifically after he received the second set of tablets and not by the first set? After all, by the first set he was on the mountain, he benefited from the ray of the Shekhinah, And the Gilui Elokus, the revelation of godliness by the first set, was much greater. You had the revelation of Matan Torah. The giving of the second set, relatively, was done quietly, was done secretly. So why specifically by the second set was the Kirun Pnei Moshe, was the rays of glory shining on Moshe's face? So what we must understand is that this continuum of matters which seem to be in completely different directions, this teaches us a lesson, and we read it once a year. And the chidush, the novelty here, is that in this Parasha Ki Sissa, you have contained within it the entire chain order of creation. And the truth is, although hafachba v'hafachba dekulaba, when you turn over every matter of Torah, you will find reflected the entirety of creation in Torah, but you'll find it hinted to. Here, in this Parsha, you have it all rolled out from the beginning to the end. So the explanation of that is as follows. Everything has a rosh, a toich, and a soif, a head, a middle, and an end. The head is something that contains everything. Then you have the middle, which is the content of it, and then you have the soif, the end, the summary of it. So in general, those would be the three items of Torah. Torah is the foundation for which the world was created, bishvil ha-Torah. The second thing is the creation itself. That's the avodah within creation to fulfill its tachlis, its purpose. And the third is the summary, which is the geula, the Sicha Ki Sissa, and the completion of creation itself. Those three are hinted to in the letters Aleph, Beis, Gimel. Aleph is the Aleph of Anochi, the first word of the Aseres Adibros, of the Ten Commandments. Beis is the idea of Beria, Bereshis bara Elokim. And Gimel is Geula, is redemption. And in more detail, you have in the chain order of creation, first, there was the thought to create the worlds, the will of Hashem to create. Then you had the creation, B'poel, the actual creation. And then you have the ultimate of creation, which is the Geula precipitated by our deeds. Or to say it in the lexicon of Chassidus, you have the Oir Ein Sof, which preceded the Tzimtzum. Then you have the Tzimtzum, the Mokum Ponui, and the Kavana, the intent of the Tzimtzum being revelation. And finally, you have the ultimate revelation, which is a revelation of Atzmos, of the essence of Hashem, the complete Dira by the Geula. Now, since Torah is the architect, plans for creation, therefore you have in Torah itself these three. First of all, you have Bereshis, Bishvil Yisrael, Bishvil HaTorah. And the letter base, which begins Bereshis, obviously comes after the letter Aleph. Then you have the creation of heaven and earth and the entire story as it's rolled out in Chumash. And at the end of the Chumash, Ad Hayom HaAcharon, you have the Torah finishing with the idea of Geula, the complete revelation of godliness, Le'enei Kol Yisrael, as it says, Ki Meitzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim, when Mashiach will come, Eren and Niflois, will see great wonders as it was right at the end of the Torah, Le'enei Kol Yisrael. We also find that in Pirkei Avos. It starts off with Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai, which is the Aleph. Then Masora, Liyahushua, giving it over, the chain of transmission, which is the base. And finally, at the end of Pirkei Avos, Hashem Yimlech Le'olam Vayed, the idea of the Geula. And that's also the reason why Torah is connected with the number 3. As the Gemara says in Shabbos, Rich Brich Rachmana, blessed be Hashem, who gave a Torah of 3 parts to a nation of 3 parts, etc. Because the whole chain order of creation is divided into this 3 steps of the Aleph base and the Gimel. And so too we have it in our parsha. The Aleph is the first set of tablets, the Aleph of Anoichi, which was written on them. The second was the sin of the golden calf, the smashing of the tablets. That's connected with the base, because the original sin came because of the tzimtzum orishan of the first symptom, shviras hakelim, the breakage of the vessels, and through much hishtalshelus, through much chain order descent, gave the opportunity for sin. And the idea is that even after sin and descent, b'shvil haTorah, that was all created, in fact, for Torah. And the third, ultimate, is the Luchas Achronis, is the second set of tablets, which is the ascent after the descent. So we'll now understand that which it says, Le'enei Kol Yisrael, at the end of the Torah. And Chazal say about that, it says, Vashabrim Le'enechem, that Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm going to smash the tablets before your eyes. And Chazal say that he schema das Hashem l'daitoi, that Hashem agreed with him. And not only that, Hashem applauded him. He said, Yeyasha koichacha sheshibarta, well done for smashing the tablets. Now, seemingly, why it was Moshe Rabbeinu given a yasha koyach for smashing the tablets? The answer is because it was through the sin of the golden calf that the Jewish people came to the advantage of being Baalei Teshuvah, an avodah which is even higher than that of tzaddikim. And therefore, the inner reason why the tablets were smashed was in order to gain a higher level in the Torah. As it says that by the Luchas Hashnias, by the second set of tablets, were given medrashes and halachas and agodes, kiflayim letushia, double as much as they were given previously. And that's the advantage of the second set of tablets, which were made by Moshe. You see, the first set of tablets, which were given by Hashem, they were given from above. So that was the Aleph before the base and the Gimel. However, since it was given from above, it possibly could have a breakage because below was not a vessel for it. And that's why the Torah actually starts with the base, because it has to be a vessel for it. However, the second set of tablets, which came through the Avodah of people, through the Avodah of Teshuvah, and the Luchas being the handiwork of Moshe, through that was fulfilled the ultimate intent that Bohem, that through them was Bishvil HaTorah. In other words, the second set of tablets did not have a breakage. And more so, they carried with them double the amount, as we said beforehand, and they actually lead to the Gimel of Geula. So it comes out that we've got Aleph, which is the beginning of the Torah, Base, the actual Bria, the creation, and Gimel, the end of the Torah, Le'enei Kol Yisrael, Yashash Koichacha Sheshivarata. And all these come in one continuum. Now, seemingly again, how can we actually compare the second set of tablets to the first set of tablets? Because at the end of the day, the second set of tablets did come through sin. So the answer is that since they all come in one continuum, they actually come in the Seder which HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself had rolled out for creation, Aleph, Base, Gimel, the beginning, middle, and the end. So the middle base is actually not just talking about creation, but it's also talking about the results of creation, and that ending up even in descent. As is explained in Chassidus on the pasuk Noira Alila al Bnei Adam, that sometimes a libel is made upon people, that sometimes the reason why the Yetzer Hara prevails is because from above they want to cause a person to stumble, to sin, which Ayid mitzad atzmoi, from his very essence, he is not shaykh to sin. It's only because in Hashem's great chesed that Hashem wants to bring a yid to an aliyah, to an elevation, a great elevation, therefore that there's a libel and a momentary descent, which, although is external brings to an eternal elevation, the Geula which comes after the Golus. And in addition to the fact that every descent is for the purpose of ascent, here it comes that the descent is actually part of the ascent. And so too it was by the Chet Egel. As the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, Daf Daled Amud Beis, Lo Yosu Yisrael es Egel ela liten pischem pele ba'alei tshuva, that the whole reason the Egel came about was to open the mouths of Ba'alei Teshuvah. And consequently, the base which comes after the Aleph of Avnechi is the path to the Gimel, to the Geula. And with this, we'll be able to understand that the Aleph, base, and Gimel are literally one thing, whose content is Ki Sissa, elevation. Because the Aleph, base, and the Gimel are all part of the three-step process in order to bring the greatest elevation. First of all, you have the first set of luchos, which is the aliyah of the Bnei Yisrael by Matan Torah. Then you have the base, which is the sin, the breakage of the luchos, the concept of teshuvah, which was followed by the revelation of the glory of Hashem to Moshe and the 13 attributes of mercy. And then Gimel, in the end of the Sedra, you have the rays of glory on the face of Moshe and the ultimate revelation as it will be by the Geula. So now we can understand why the concept of the luchos was brought after the instruction to build a Mishkan. Because the whole instruction to build a Mishkan is that one needs to create a dira b'tachtonim, a dwelling for Hashem down here in this world, to reveal in the world that b'shvil Yisrael or b'shvil HaTorah, as it will be by the Gimel, by the Geula. And therefore, after Hashem's instruction to Moshe for the Mishkan, before Moshe tells the Yidden in Parshas Vayakhel the instruction b'poel, Hashem tells us about the three steps of the Aleph, base, and the Gimel. So you have Ki Sissa es Rosh B'nei Yisrael, that goes on the Rosh, that's Yisrael, that's Torah. Then you have the rest of the parsha, the Masa Egel and the breaking of the Luchas, that's the base. And then you have the end of the Sedra, the second set of tablets, the Kiran Pnei Moshe and Le'enei Kol Yisrael. And so too it is in the three festivals. You've got, and that's why the festivals are brought in this week's Sedra. You've got Pesach being the first of the festivals. That's in Chodesh HaAviv, which you have Aleph and then base. Then Shavuos, which is the second one, which is connected with Ketzir Chitim, the idea of Avodah, wheat, which is the Avodah of a person from below. And then Gimel, you have the Sukkot, the Chag HaOsif, which is the collection and summation of all Avodah and bringing together all the sparks of holiness from the entire world. And now we'll understand why the shining glory of rays of Moshe were by the second set of tablets and not by the first, because it was specifically after the descent into the world and the avodah of birurim, of refining the world, that has an effect of a revelation of the deepest levels of Chochmah, the Pnimis and Etzem of Chochmah, which is the idea of Kirun Pnei Moshe, of the rays shining on Moshe's face. Like it says, Chochmah Sodom Toyer Panav, that the wisdom of a person shines on their face. It's an essential light which transcends the chain order of creation. And since that came through Pasal Lecha Avonim, through literally hewing out the stone in this world, therefore that actually caused that Vayiru Migesha Selov, that the people were afraid to come to Moshe, and he had to put a veil on his face to hide, in fact, the tremendous revelation of Elokus in Torah, which came through refining the world. The wearing of the veil wasn't for the Yidden themselves, because they had spoken panim face to face to Hashem. And that's why when Moshe spoke to the Yidden, he took off the veil. It was only when Moshe and Yisrael had to do with the world to effect an elevation in the world through engaging with the world, that he had to put on a veil in order that the world should be able to receive that revelation and not become nullified. So in other words, the veil itself was a concealment in order that the world should be able to receive the revelation. So too is in the avodah of all Yidden when they refine the world. Even when a Yid is within the world, he can receive the tremendous revelation of the Oir Panav of Moshe, as it will be by the Gula Hashlemis, as it says then, and so too in the world itself. All flesh will see. Even Mikir Tizak, even the walls and inanimate objects will recognize Elikus. They'll see the Koyach HaPoel Benifal, the Koyach of Hashem in creation. So from these three steps, the Aleph, Beis, and Gimel, we have a lesson and an instruction for all times. Every Yid has been given the power to achieve all that is necessary from Aleph till Tav with this three-step process of Aleph, Beis, Gimel, as we actually see in our daily avodah of a Yid. The foundation of all avodah of a Yid starts when they get up in the morning and they say, Moida ani lefanecha. The ani, even though it's here in this world and it's a mitzius, it's an existence, it is moida. It's one with the aleph of anoichi, as is hinted to in the letter aleph itself. The letter aleph is made of a yud on top, a yud on bottom, and a vav connecting them. The yud on top is Hashem, the yud on the bottom is the yid, and the vav is the connection between them. And that connection is seen even by small children who say Moida Ani. And we also say Moida Ani, not Ani Moida, which means that the Ani, the being of a Jew, is completely subservient to the Moida. And thereafter we go to the Avodah of davening, Shacharis, and from there to the Beis HaMedrash. And then, that's the Aleph, and then you go to the Beis, Yetzer Adam Lefalei, a person goes out to make a living, Mineg Derech Eretz, business, engagement with the world, and finally, Gimel, at the end of the day, a person makes a cheshbon hanefesh, an account of what they've done during the day, by Ma'ariv, by Krishma Shalamita, and Biyodcha Av Kidruchi, when they deposit their soul back to Hashem. And so too is it in a person's lifetime. You have the beginning of the lifetime, the middle, and of course, the siyum at the end. And so too is it in generations. And how much more so in our generation. After all the tremendous avodah of all the previous generation, we have finished all the final birurim, refining of the creation, and now the emphasis is on, and the focus is on the Gimel, is on bringing the Geula. And the power that the Ani is connected with Anoichi, and Bishvil Yisrael, which is the Reishis Habriya, the koyach to reveal that in every Yid comes through the Moshe. And in our generation, the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation, the Rebbe, which he had these three steps, the first luchais, the breaking of the luchais, and then the karnei hoid. And certainly on Shabbos Parshas Ki Sissa, when you have the power of Moshe, you have the lifting up of the head of the Bnei Yisrael and the empowerment of the content of the Sedra of the three steps of Aleph, Beis, and Gimel. And you have the ability that by every single Yid there can be the Karnei Hoid, which Moshe had through the element of Moshe within every single Yid. The Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya Pedig Membeis, that which it says, V'ata Yisrael, and now Yid Ma Hashem Elokecha Shoel Miyemach, Ki im liyiras Hashem Elokecha. What does Hashem want from you apart from to fear Hashem? So the Gemara says, Oto Yira Milsa Zutrasehi. Is fear of Hashem a small matter? Says the Gemara, yes, Legabe Moshe Milsa Zitrasehi. In regards to Moshe, it is a small matter. So one can ask actually the other way around. Does that mean to say that Yiras Hashem by Moshe is a small matter? And the answer is, of course, that by Moshe himself there are many, many levels. You've got the foot of Moshe, the body of Moshe, the head of Moshe, the crown of Moshe. You've got Yira Tata, the lowest level of Yira, basic Yira, belonging to the legs. And then that is a Milsa Zutra Sehi, that is a basic and small matter. But higher than that, you've got the intermediate levels, the higher levels, the head levels, the crown levels, and the Karnei Hoid, which are the Keser Malchus, the crown of the king. And similarly, by the Moshe, by every single Yid. And the Chidush, the novelty is that that level of the Keser doesn't have a Le'umase, doesn't have any opposite in the realm of unholiness, and it's given to every single Yid, even in a situation of Golus. As reflected in soul powers, that is the element of Mesiras Nefesh, which is there by a Yid, which a Yid has the ability to stand with tremendous Mesiras Nefesh in Golus, constantly their will being to fulfill the will of Hashem. And this is principally revealed by the Rabbanon, by the Nasi Hador, as a preparation to Vashiva Sheftach Varishena, the restoration of the judiciary, and at their head, Melech HaMashiach. V'yehi Ratzon, as we stand in Adar Rishon, as a preparation to Adar Sheni, which is Mismach Geula L'Geula, the juxtaposition of the redemption of Purim to that of Pesach, we should now, even in Adar Rishon, merit the Geula, especially through Marbim B'Simcha, additional joy, and especially the tremendous joy of Purim Katan and Shushan Purim, that this Katan Gadol Yihiyah, that this Purim Katan, we will have a Gadol L'mayla mi Gadol, a tremendous, tremendous Simcha, which breaks through all barriers, that the last minute in Gola should be the first minute of Geula, and it should be Tekev Umiyad Mamish.